Mr. Chairman. Mr. Kosar, what is the reason why the Founding Fathers put the power of the purse with the Congress?
Well, they had had plenty of experience of abuse at the hands of the Crown, and I think there was just more philosophical agreement that if money was to be taken, it should only be taken by elected officials who are therefore accountable and can be taken out of office if they take more than they should.
So you have an executive, and they believe in separation of powers. So you have an executive branch. The executive branch is acting in a way that's contrary to either the interests or the rights of the public. Then those elected representatives in the legislature would be able to remedy that by simply refusing to provide funds going forward, correct?
The wealth and property of individuals be better protected under a scheme by which only those who are able to be recalled through election or put out of office are able to extract it, yes.
And I think the problem with what we've pointed out here, and I commend the chairman for doing this, is when you have agencies that are effectively on autopilot with fees and whatnot, and we saw this with the dispute about illegal immigration when the president, even though he had said 20 times, you can't do this, was then effectively issuing legal status unilaterally to certain people who were in the country illegally. The Congress said, wait a minute, you can't do that. But it turned out, we said, we're not going to fund it. Well, it turned out we didn't even need to take an affirmative act to fund it. They already had the fees through the USCIS, and it was just on they went without any need for congressional appropriation or authorization. And the problem with that is that that takes the default. The default should always be, if we just simply decide not to act, then the offending conduct stops. It should require Congress to take an affirmative act to appropriate funds for a given activity. And the way we've gone, we're insulating we're insulating the agencies from accountability from the Congress, but more importantly from the American people, because they don't have a direct way to hold the agencies accountable. And I think that, what frustrates me is that it's not like Congress had this power taken from us. Congress has given away the power and has offered to do this over the years. So let me ask you this. Well, this could be for anyone that wants to jump in. In terms of transparency, some agencies are not transparent at all. Some are very transparent. What agency would you say is the most transparent? Examples?
Mr. Desantis, I would point to, we were doing a lot of work on the overall spending and the transparency of expenditures, as is going to be required beginning this May under the Data Act. And I would point to the Small Business Administration, for instance. They have been able to take all of their spending information, they've been able to conform it to the new data structure, and they're now able to navigate seamlessly from their appropriation all the way down to each grant they issue and put all of that in a map in one click.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
Sure. Under the False Claims Act, those settlements are all made public. They're subject to court approval. Every dime given to the whistleblower is accounted for in a public document. It's been around for 30 years, and I don't know of any time that a member of Congress or even the public has said what the way the whistleblower was awarded was somehow bad, except for a whistleblower claiming they should have gotten more. So there is transparency in the False Claims Act.
Let me ask about examples of Congress relieving agencies from the appropriation process, as I mentioned. When did this start? Ms. Kraus, I think you had mentioned it.
Sorry, I was looking back to my my colleague.
Actually, there have actually been examples.
We'll get you a chair.
Okay.
Sorry about that. There have been examples going back to, as was mentioned earlier, the customs officials early on in the Republic. There's also been a number of authorities just in this past 100 years where agencies are collecting fees, and Congress has either provided limitations on how they can use them or made them available without further appropriation.
And that process has become more conspicuous over the last 100 years. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that would be fair to say.
Okay. Well, look, I think that my friend from Alabama has a good bill. I think at some point If we want to be anything more than a debating society, we're going to have to start reclawing some of this authority. You know what? It requires Congress to do more work. You actually have to legislate more. You got to make more decisions. Some people don't like going on the record as much, but that's just the reality. And it's easier to kind of say that just let everything run on autopilot. And I think some of the fees, it's not all bad the way it's done. Sometimes it is within law. But other times it's simply government on autopilot, and that is not, I think, what the Constitution envisions, and I think it's up to us to start to claw this back. So I yield back.
I thank the gentleman. Chair recognizes the gentleman.